Good day and welcome to this installment of the Royal LePage Binder Market Report, brought to you by Royal LePage Binder. My name is Dominic Popham. We're certainly glad to have you along, talking real estate as we do each month, and no better man to do that with than the owner, operator, the broker of record with Royal LePage Binder, Mr. Frank Binder, who joins us on the show. Good day to you, sir. How are you?
And good afternoon to you, Don. Fine. All's good. And nothing to complain about. Great weather. All's good.
Yeah, the weather's been a hot one, that's for sure. It's been a hot summer, and the last few weeks have been extremely warm. Nice break right now, and we've got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to get right into it here if we can. And a lot of things going on, and you know, again, I'm going to commend you. Mr. Binder, in the last show, you talked about how things are going to slow down, and there's going to be some changes, and it's happening. The prices have even changed a little bit, and things like that. But quickly, just a quick update as to where it's at.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we continue to see sales drop. I mean, if you look at our first slides, unit sale price by price, they've dropped. You have the over/under. We always do this, an over/under. The under market actually dominated the market in July, with 260 units being sold then, and only 168 sales over the 550 mark, which is a continuing softening of the upper market. That's going to be without a question. Ultimately, it meant a 23.81% drop in sales in the month of July. That continues to be the erosion of that market. Continue to see that, and the softening of the upper market as well. We also can note that too, because what happened is that homes over $1 million in the $1 million category, you continue to see less homes being sold.
Yeah,
$1 million up. It was 22 homes in July as compared to 29, and 29 had already dropped from 48, and so on and so forth. So we see continuing drops in that very upper market of $1 million plus home, which really sometimes regulates some what our average prices are. But you know, the reasons for that really still come from interest rates. So we're acclimatizing ourselves to higher interest rates. I mean, just if you look at a $500,000 mortgage right now, you're going to spend over $400 more for that particular mortgage than you did at the beginning of the year. So there's without question going to be some people that are going to have to pause. They're going to have to figure out whether they can afford it. And it's also exacerbated by the fact that I'm paying more for everything. I'm paying more for gas, I'm paying more for this, I'm paying, it continues to be that. And that's not going away too quickly. So we have to really consider why buyers are going to continue to pause. They're going to reconsider, they're going to recalibrate. For example, they're going to have to go back to mortgage companies and recalibrate as to whether we can afford what the current rates are. And that's really what's been happening all along. It shouldn't come as any surprise to us, at this point in time. That's just generally what's going on at this point in time. And there's also suggestions of more increases to come. So, a lot of people are looking at that. Some will jump into the market to try to get into the market faster, but others will pause and maybe wait it out. They certainly are concerned about prices, where they're going to end up. Am I going to be paying too much for my house? Banks are concerned with that as well. Are we mortgaging too much? So all these things are all factors that come into play here in real time, and we are seeing the results of that right now.
I guess the real estate industry has always been ebb and flow. There's been down times. We always hope for better times like that. Everybody's working, everybody's making a few bucks, which is always a good thing. Is there the buyers, the people that are still looking to buy homes, is that a different kind of a market? Is there a certain person now that things are changing cost wise that continues to search to buy homes, or is it still just a pretty big open market of people looking for a house? Maybe somebody's looking to buy a house to rent it out, use it as a rental income. Is there a certain kind of buyer right now?
No, I think that goes right across the board. But the first-time buyer is a constant buyer, right? There's constant demand for the first-time buyer. And that first-time buyer is typically the person who's going to be in the market under $550,000. That's why you see that to be a pretty stable number. It's not declining. So there's demand in that market. But let's understand a few things. If I'm trying to sell a house or try to trade a house these days, I may or may not. If I'm satisfied with the house I'm in, unless I've got some real reasons to move, I could stay there. And so that's what's also happening. So I don't have to make a trade necessarily as quickly, or there's got to be other reasons for it or motivations for the trade, right? So this is what we're seeing right now. And let's put it this way: it is summer. People are away. A lot of people are on vacation. A lot of people after the pandemic have just taken off. They're traveling anywhere they can get to at this point. You see that in the airports and everything else. People are just trying to get away. I mean, so you've got that as well. So I'm pausing to look for any houses, doing any of that kind of thing, because I just want to have a vacation, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're spending money on that at the moment. So if we go to the next slide, we just added this slide in just to show you the popular homes, so to speak. And basically all that is that bungalows continue to be outpace most of the sales. We've got a lot of bungalows in our area. Then the raised ranch is the next highest category. But you'll notice that the two-story house is the best price. It's $979. So it's and then what you're seeing is basically what the percentage of those houses are in that graph. And that's just we're just doing that for interest. People may want to see what most popular homes are, so we've just thrown this into our topics for today. Going on to the residential. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah. What can you tell us, Mr. Binder? What is the what type of homes are at a surplus right now? Like, is there one type of a home that's out there more available than other styles?
I really don't have those stats for today's meeting. But the bottom line is that it's right across the board. We have substantial inventory, and we'll be talking that in the next little while when we bring up the inventory and also the listings that we've got. But there's no particular style of home that outpaces another at any given time. It's really you've got really a decent supply of all of them at this point in time. In my opinion, I couldn't give you exact numbers as to what they are.
Yeah, it's no problem. I'm jumping ahead of you here a little bit, I think.
Let's talk about listings, because it's a big thing. It's a huge thing that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And we've got some really interesting stuff to talk about in that category. As you can see, basically today, or we are in July, we listed 1,305 houses. If you go back to last year, there was only 1,054 listed in July. So we're seeing that continued trend of more listings coming on the market every particular month, and that's really important. If we could just show the next graph, it kind of gives you a really good sense of of what's going on, because now it also shows what has happened to the inventory in the market. So the number of listings at the end of the current month in July was 1,660, and I can tell you that since then, in August, it's now 1,699 as of today. So the listing inventory continues to grow, and it's something for us to keep looking at. What does that mean? That means that we have a 3.6 month inventory of listings, and you can see very dramatically how that graph grew over the period of time. But it's really, really important for us to understand that and it was substantially over last year's, as you can see. What did we have? We had no listing, very few listings on the market throughout the entire year. We never reached these levels. We're at twice the level that we had last year at this time. And that's really only because we're starting to return to the market. Remember, a pandemic, what does a pandemic do? It keeps people in their homes. They didn't want to have people come into their homes. They isolated their homes, on and on and on. So there's all kinds of reasons not to put my house up for sale. And that's exactly what happened during the pandemic. When you had lower supply, like we did, it's going to push up prices because the demand was still there. People are still trying to find properties and trying to move, and that's really important for us to do that. Which leads us to our next slide. So if we go on to our next slide, what we try to do here is just to show what happened pre-pandemic. So look at the blue graphs here, and you'll see that. Hey, those listings would have been the normal listings levels that we would have faced every one of those months from January to July. And look what's happened now. We were at half those levels at the beginning of the year. And now what we did, we equalized in May, and June we're up, and July we're really up. So what we're now doing is going back to that pre-pandemic level where that is. But if you were to take and add up all these houses that you've got here, back in 2019, you would have had 7,000 plus houses listed for sale, and we are only at 6,000 some odd houses listed for sale this year. So we're still behind what pre-pandemic levels were as far as listings are concerned, and that's kind of an interesting thing, interesting take on it. But we have 900 houses less, so we're now just catching up, if you will, to what was a regular market. Understand, however, that when we catch up and we get all these listings coming on, because this is what people want to do, it is going to affect the price. All right, no question it's going to affect the price, because those prices during the pandemic were somewhat artificial because you didn't have supply. It's basic supply demand, and so we're going to react to the same thing that we have now, more supply, and we're going to have less sale price, or a lower sale price. It's not going to be a crazy adjustment, but it will be a correction in terms of what we've had in the past. Will we go back to pre-pandemic levels? Probably not. But we will have some drop, and the erosion that we saw of the price increase at the beginning of the year will happen. You can expect that will likely be eroding over time, just because we have the supply now. And we're getting a lot of people who are interested in putting their houses on the market.
Those are, I think, really incredible numbers with the pandemic and comparing the pandemic numbers to today's numbers. I find that really interesting. I guess also the average sale price. Let's look at that information and see
average
where
sale price is this is an annualized rate. When we show you this, we're showing what the annualized rate is. What we've taken over a period of a year. So you haven't got a huge drop, but you did see a drop from $674,000 in June to $662 in the month of July, and it's still dropping. Okay, but what I want to do is go to the next slide, and which really just shows you what's happened annually over the year. So when you look at this graph, it shows from January right to July, where we peaked our numbers. Our average sale price peaked in March, and it's starting to slowly come down to July. But now when you take this and you look at it on a monthly basis, which is the next slide shows a much more dramatic curve. Look at the difference there. We took it from December. You peaked in March for sure, but look at where it's gone. And that's where the trend is. So when I look at it, I look at the monthly rates as to what's happening every month, and I'm seeing a trend downward that is more dramatic than that gentle slide we just looked at previously. So the bottom line is that we're going to make sure that we see an accelerated trend towards some price adjustments, and that's only because basically when you look at 557, that's substantially lower than the numbers that we just looked at. And the bottom line is that is definitely going to affect our price overall, even on an annualized rate. It just takes time for that to kind of go through the system before it actually drops some more. But we need to pay attention to it, because I see 3 months of a trend there that is without a doubt downward trend. And the bottom line is that we will continue to see that unless we have other things happening in the market. But if we're going to continue to have interest rate increases, we're going to have continued inflation, so on and so forth, expect that trend to continue for some time, because people who are buying houses have to recalibrate, have to figure out whether they can afford the houses that they were once looking for. The key, though, is that they are looking at houses that are going to be less priced. It'll be a bit of a lesser price for them. So can the first-time buyer find a home? Probably. They have a better chance to buy a home today. You've got to just look at whether the cost of the borrowing is eliminated by the cost of buying the house. That's the cost of buying versus the cost of borrowing is something that you're going to have to look at and determine whether that's a good time for you to buy or not at this point in time. I should also make a note, one more note if I can, Dominic.
Yeah.
I got to say to you that as we see prices decreasing in the existing home supply, it may have ultimately an effect on construction, new construction. Why? Because if there's a greater gap between an existing home and the construction of a home, which is really based on the cost of building it, if there's a greater gap, new house construction will become less of an option for people to buy. They'll go to an existing house because I can buy the existing house square footage wise and everything else for a great amount less than building it. So there will be a push in that. That will take some time, of course, before that's figured out. But the bottom line, it could have some effect on our construction going forward.
I'm curious, Mr. Binder. Of course, with gas prices, for example, you see gas prices are all over the place. If you drove through the city, one station has it at this price, another station has it at this price. They're all over the place with it. Does that happen in real estate where houses, same type of houses, may sell for more with another agent compared to what an agent has a price set at with a similar house? Does that type of stuff happen in the real estate world? And is that something
It's all
a buyer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
all
does
market
a buyer really has to do their homework then?
Listen, they really do. And you know what? They should have an agent that's doing the homework for them, quite frankly. There's no question about it. All agents should be doing that. I've been counseling with my agents all along here to make sure that we're giving this information to both buyers and sellers. It's important for them to have what the market is. I always have said to all people who are selling their houses, you are selling to the market being the buyers. And the bottom line is that they're going to determine what the value of the house is based on the education they've got about what they're selling for. And so basically what we're doing now is that we are having to go to sellers now and saying to them, the value of the house that you once could get is now a new value. Here's the new value. And the bottom line, it'll be up to the sellers to kind of look at that or not and determine if that's satisfactory to them or not. And that's all predicated on what I'm trying to do. Where am I trying to go? If it's an equity trade, in other words, I'm trying to sell my house just to buy another house, that house will have come down in value as well, and mine will have come down in value. So the equity difference will be probably about the same, not really any different. So for them to make that decision is a much easier decision today than the person who is selling their house and they're not going anywhere, or they're just selling out to get out of the house altogether. So those are the types of things that we have many different circumstances for sellers who are determining whether to sell their house now or not. And that's what we have to pay attention to. But the advice is really the same. We're giving you advice on the market. You will determine whether to buy or sell in that market.
All right. Let's move on here, Mr. Binder, because I know there's some other information you want to get out to our viewers. The sales list ratio, if we can get that chart up and you could go through it for our viewers.
The sales to list ratio is exactly the same. So we've seen a decline of the sales list ratio, and that's really defined just as the number of sales that are number of listings that are selling on a month by month, or generally on a average percentage for the year. And what you're looking at here is an average for the year. So you saw another decline from June to July, from 55% down to 51%. And bottom line, that's exactly it. But if you go to the next slide, it's really showing you the entire year since January. And again, it replicates really the same thing, same kind of slide we saw in the unit sales. So you had right here, you peaked in February, and you continued to slide down to July. And then when you go to the next slide, all right, if you go to the next slide, you're going to see that even greater, right? So now you see the same kind of graph, but look at how it drops down to July, where it's only 30%. So what we're saying is that of the houses that are listed in July, only 30% of them sold. And that's basically because also in July, it's taken 23 days to sell a house. Well, gone are the days of selling it in a week, and gone are the days that I'm going to sell over asking price necessarily. So those days are going to be not there as much, but it's now taking longer to sell a house as well. Why? Because there's more of them. And as we have more of them, expect that it takes longer for people to see them to buy them. It's quite simple. I'm giving you a pretty simple example of that, but that's exactly what I've been telling my salespeople. But the days on market is just as important to you as anything else. So when you're pricing your house as a seller, you've got to get the right information. I need to know the days on the market in my area. I got to know what the average comps are, what are the comparable sales, and I cannot use comparable sales that were back in May and in March. Those are not comparable sales anymore. That the market's changed. So that's what a realtor is to do, is to give you those comps, and probably I would suggest not more than 30 to 45 days out. That's what I'm telling my salespeople now. Don't go back that far because the market's changed. It continues to change. So try to stay as current as you can in the advice that you're giving.
And also bring your patience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Got to bring your patience.
Hey, Tom, listen, we've set expectations, or not that we've had, but everybody has greater expectations from what we've seen in the last 3 to 4 years. And so I know now those expectations are not being realized, certainly in the time that you thought it was, and that's frustrating. And I agree with that. But you know what? That's basically it. We are getting back to normal. You see it in the marketplace. We're getting back to what we had a normal market back in 2019. That wasn't quite the levels that we've seen during the pandemic. That's to be expected. That's not unusual, and it's not something to get totally frightened about. It just is what it is.
Yeah, patience. One last thought here, if we can get your thoughts on it, Mr. Binder. There's been a lot of talk for the last little while about inflation, about possible recession going on. How does that affect the real estate industry?
We may lead that. Understand that housing was the driving force of our GDP in the country, and during the pandemic. Anything that happens to our business over the next little while will dramatically affect the GDP. I mean, I was reading a report today, and that's a 1.4% GDP drop. That's what was being suggested there. That's significant. I can't minimize it. Now, I don't know whether that will ultimately be the case, but the recession word is being used fairly regularly now. And the bottom line, it really will depend on how many things come into play, or whether we will see continued economic problems. I would look at the job market as being a potential problem, because we are still have employment rates that are pretty reasonable and good. The question is, will that stay there with what we've got? And you see some of the tech industry dropping jobs. You see some things going on now. That will be what we want to look for in terms of whether there's other economics that will actually affect this as well. The home market will make its adjustment. There's no question about it. But it will not be the driving force to the country's GDP in 2022, I can tell you that.
That's why you're the man. You bring all the information, great information, Mr. Binder, and really, I'm sure it helps a lot of people that are in that real estate market. And certainly, we appreciate you putting this together and getting it out there to the public. It's valuable information these days. That's
just
sure.
One last comment, Dom, and
I'll
quit at that point. I think what you want to have is having a real heart-to-heart with your sales representative. Look to him for advice, or her for advice as to what you should be doing in the market today. Because that's really what it comes down to, is that a singular decision for you to either buy a house or not to buy a house, or as to what you can afford for a house. So those are the things that you really got to pay attention to today as the market does make the change. And just be aware of it. Get good advice. That's the important thing. Right.
Well, we encourage everybody to contact one of the many outstanding real estate agents at Royal LePage Binder. They can help you. They can give you great advice, and they can certainly guide you through what is always a very important transaction in your life, and one of the probably the biggest transaction you'll ever make. So we really appreciate everything, Mr. Binder. We will look forward to talking to you in September. I'm going to wish you a great Labor Day weekend now, because I hope I talked to you before that, but as for this show, it won't be until after Labor Day. So have a great Labor Day weekend, a safe one.
Yeah.
And again, as always, we always appreciate your time here on the Market Report. That's Frank Binder, the owner operator and broker of record at Royal LePage Binder. Don't forget, speaking of all the agents and Mr. Binder, you can contact them. Just go to their website, Royal LePage Binder. They're also on all of the social media outlets. If you want to make a quick contact there, just look them up. Very easy to find, and they'll be ready to help you in any way that they can. So that's it for this edition of the Royal LePage Market Report. I hope you got some good information out of it. Come back again next month, and we'll do it up again with Mr. Binder. And until then, we do hope the rest of your summer, you stay safe, stay cool, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Until then, this is Dominic Papa wishing you a great day. Take care, everybody.